charcoal to wood firebox management. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, and today we are going to be doing charcoal as our initial base and then managing an offset smoker with wood from there on out. Now this is a little bit more challenging than just continuing to add charcoal to your base, and I must admit, I shot this the day before and it gave me a lot of trouble. This isn't a exact perfect firebox management 101 that I wanted it to be. However, I do go through the realistic type of environment you're going to be dealing with an offset smoker that you would get from your big box store of Home Depot, Lowe's, or Walmart. So I wanted to, maybe cancel this video before ever airing because it wasn't perfect. But that's the reality of these thinner steel smokers, is you're not going to get perfect all the time. I've come out here a bunch of times and been able to add charcoal, add wood, and keep my temperature within a 15-degree range. This video was not this case. However, I still want to show it to you because there are a lot of things that you can pick up on and use to your advantage. The method was there, all right, but the wind wasn't cooperating and the wood I was using wasn't cooperating. So I do want you to see what that real hand first experience is like when you try to go from charcoal to wood only in these types of offset smokers. Sometimes you can just go out and nail it and you might not have the issues that I ran into, but sometimes you go out there, you think you've got it down, and boom, real life hits you with temperature swings. Let's jump right into it and stay tuned to the very end to hear the final thoughts and conclusions on what went wrong and what went right. We are starting off with just hickory today. I pushed them down into the coals to try to get them lit faster. All right, you want to find some hot embers so that it can start right up for you. This has been on for about a minute and now we're catching flame. We're still letting a lot of that bad smoke. So at this point, I have no meat on the main chamber, cooking chamber, and I'm preparing the wood, that smoke flavor, but this needs to burn down a little bit. We've had the charcoal going for about 50 minutes, heating this all up, and now we're starting to add our wood. Normally I wouldn't wait this long, but I had some technical difficulties with my thermometer and I had to recalibrate them. So normally I'd do about 20 minutes, 30 minutes of charcoal, and then I'd start adding wood. Now we're going to shut this down as this starts to light. We're letting more airflow come in by opening up the firebox so that this can get as much oxygen as it needs to combust and start getting broken down into those nice wood embers that we're looking for. So as I shut this down, I'm going to add my next pieces so that they can start heating up and being ready to combust even faster. So this is what I love about offset smoking. Every time it's a little different. For example, today it's been about 8 to 10 minutes. We're finally getting a flame. Actually check that. It's probably closer to 15 to 20 minutes since we put it in there. What is the dilemma? Normally I put wood in and it just like that lights up and we're off and running. The dilemma here is I'm using wood that seems to be a little too wet. I've had this wood for a year and a half. However, it did rain pretty hard the other day, and this is the wood that wasn't covered. So let's check the wood. Now, this is hickory that I got from a friend, and when I started handling it, it's always been a little heavy. All right. So let's check, push that in there. All right, 22. You're really supposed to be under 20 from everything I've read. And you can just see, you know, we're close, but there's still a lot of weight to this. Now, the importance of putting it on top of here, let's check this side. You can see that's helping preheat the wood, get some of that moisture out of it. So the next pieces I will have prepared a lot better to catch a lot quicker. So it is important to make sure you're getting your next pieces ready. This was out in the rain. This piece wasn't out in the rain. So let's see. You can just see this one won't need as much preparation to throw right into the wood. Using wet wood is not ideal. Heavier content in your, you can just see this is, I checked this like 2 minutes ago. See, that's a problem right there. That's why I have to nurse along this wood I just added in there. Like I was saying, this is why I find offset smoking to be so fascinating. You never know what it's going to throw at you. I was preparing for this and I didn't even think, should I check my wood? These pieces were so much heavier than the other ones I was handling. Normally, a light bulb would go off and be like, this is a little wet. But just like any time you're preparing for a cook, you have a million other things you're thinking about. What time is company coming over? How should I season the meat? So there's these checklists you want to do. If the wood is nice and light, that's normally a good indicator. But this one was heavy. Something should have gone off in my head saying, wait a second, this doesn't feel right. However, a lot going on. This stuff happens. So this has just added about 35 to 40 minutes. We're finally getting clean smoke. Meat should have been on 30 minutes ago. Should have had cleaner smoke, better combustion. But it took a while for that to catch. So now we're behind. This is why people get so frustrated with briskets and longer cooks. Stuff like this all of a sudden adds an hour and a half to your cook. You can adapt to it, but that's why you always want to give yourself extra time. Now we have a good flame going. The cooker is really hot. So I want to make sure that this piece on the right really turns over. We can see I actually flipped it over at tongs, but we want to make sure that it's really starting to break down. And then I will close this down to restrict the air. That way I can get my temperature down. But I don't want to do that. I could probably do it right now, but I'm going to wait to make sure that we're nice and cooked through that wood so that all the smoke coming off of it going forward is going to be really good smoke. I think we've reached a point where it's okay to close this down, try to pull down the temperature, start restricting the airflow to reduce the temperature. We still should have enough air coming in here to give us a clean fire, but we're going to have to monitor that to make sure we don't start getting bad smoke. One of the things you can do when you can no longer wait for your smoker to get to where it needs to be is I really cut down, sorry, I'm going to step out of the wind. You can really cut down your damper so that the temperature will drop. We're still vent wide open on the exhaust vent, and you can see even with dampering it really down, it's not getting a lot of oxygen. We're still getting good smoke out of this. So this is okay. We've gotten the temperature down, and now we're going to monitor from here. If this smoke really starts to get heavy, really white, dirty smoke, then we are going to have to reduce the amount of fuel we have in the cooking chamber. Firebox. But as you can see, we're still doing all right. I do want to get a flame going in here, but I had to drop that temperature down. Another thing you can do when you start getting in a pickle, because these offset smokers, you know, they're not $1,000 offset smokers that are just ready to go. One of the other things you can do, which I try to do as little as possible, you can open up your cooking chamber to let some of that heat out to get you down into your steady temperatures you're looking for. You have to fiddle with these, $500 and less smokers. They're not going to come with a push of a button, set it and forget it. That's part of the fun of it. You can really enjoy that. Some people hate that, and it's not the smoker for them, so steer clear of them. But if you want a push of a button, you got to go $800 and above. We're at 246 right now, so let's take a look, see what we have. So as you can see, this wood's really broken down, giving us, just with some touches, we're starting to get those embers. So now we have to replenish with another piece of wood. This time I'm gonna go across like that. And this time it's catching a lot faster because I've pre-seasoned it by keeping it warm up top here. So we're gonna let this go, let this catch, and check back in about 25-30 minutes to see if we're ready to add this piece of wood. Even with adding that piece of wood, you can tell that we are pushing through a little bit heavier of smoke. This isn't bad. I mean, I wouldn't be concerned about this at all. If it really gets heavy, then I might have to open up the chamber for a little bit, a minute or two to get some of that heavier smoke out, but we can live with this. We are right at the 45-minute mark. I want to start replenishing some wood. We've been hanging out between 250. Now we're starting to drop 240. We've had a lot of spikes, wind change directions. Lots of things are happening with this cook. I added some ribs onto the grill, so that's where you're going to see some of the changes in temperatures. But what I want to do now is, if I'm trying to keep this a wood-only cook, I need to start replenishing this ember base. All right, I'll probably add charcoal here in a little bit, but I need to get this piece catching and turning over as this bottom piece starts to really turn over, turn into hot embers. I need a new fresh piece to get the right amount of time to cycle through what I'm trying to accomplish here. The other thing to note is, one of the things I'm really trying to do is illustrate how to do this. If I wanted to keep my temperatures a lot smoother, I would add all my wood from this side chamber here, and I wouldn't add as much from the top. But I'm trying to show you guys what it looks like. I need to open it up because we hadn't caught a flame yet, but that's why I keep adding wood from here. That's why you're going to see a lot of spikes in the temperature as part of this tutorial. But ideally, if you're going to add wood from the top, you want to add it and then close it right away to reduce those temperature swings that we're seeing in the charts. This is piece number 4 of wood we're adding. So we're roughly 2 hours in, and now 2 hours in adding wood. One of the things we might have to do is, all the original charcoal base that started at 1040, it's now 130, so we're pushing 3 hours. The original briquettes we used have really gone down, so we might need to add a little bit of charcoal the next go around with our next piece of wood, just to rebuild our charcoal base a little bit. But this is a way to do it with just adding wood. We're going to see how long we can go before we need any help from briquettes or any other type of charcoal. Sometimes you have to rotate the wood ever so slightly just to help it catch. This was laid flat down, but as you can see, after about 10 minutes it really wasn't catching the way I wanted it to, so I had to get in there with another log and turn it ever so slightly so that the embers would catch it better. So it's getting a little longer in the cook, and I want to replenish my embers a little faster, so I'm putting in a smaller split to help that along. I also want to do this from the side just so you can see the heat temperature not change as much. Here is 2 o'clock, and now 30 minutes later, you can see how far this is burned down. That smaller piece really did what it was supposed to do, and that's create more charcoal, replenish the charcoal base. As that bigger piece, you can see just, it was actually a little too big for my firebox. I don't know what I was thinking, but sometimes you just throw a big piece in because you got too many other things you're thinking about. But now that's a good replenish with that smaller piece, and we're up and cooking, up and smoking properly again. Some things I want to point out is this ash buildup. We're over 3 hours, pushing 4 hours into this cook, and you can see the embers underneath aren't getting the oxygen they need to really keep your temperature steady. So I want to get in my firebox and make sure the airflow is not being blocked by anything. And that's just a ton of briquette ash right there that was starting to block the way. Since they burned down to ash, they're no longer any use. So you want to clear those out. You want to make sure you have a clear line of airflow for your wood, for your charcoal to keep burning hot. Time to close back down the door. Monitor the smoke. This is the smoke we've had all day. Even though the temperature was all over the place, you can see it was a really clean burn we had throughout the day, which was really nice. As you can see, we still have enough embers from the logs we've been putting in there, the splits I should say, we've been putting in there. So they've been burning, breaking down into embers and replenishing our coal base enough to put another split of wood in there, and it catches right away. This literally caught in about 10 seconds, which is great, exactly what you want. So we haven't had to add any more charcoal to it. Adding charcoal to this at this point would help smooth out the temperature. When you're only adding wood, which was the premise of the smoke today, you're going to get more temperature swings. This isn't a huge, big 250, 500 gallon smoker. So as you add more wood to it, you're more likely to get temperature swings. Add in the wind fluctuations we've had today where it's gotten up to 15 miles per hour. And over the past, half an hour, it's calmed down to about 5 miles per hour. That's also going to, get air going in, keep air from going in as strong, depending on how the temperature is fluctuating. So there's a lot of elements that are happening that are making it more challenging to get this offset smoker where it needs to be. There are ways to do this to get your temperatures right at 250, keep it there very close. Using charcoal, I've found, is a way to get that done. But when you're adding wood, you're just going to have more temperature swings in an offset smoker like this. All right, this is going to be the final portion of the video as far as fire management, looking at the chamber. As you can see, the charcoal base that originated from the briquettes 5 hours ago, they're completely gone. The wood embers from log number 5 are really down. This is log number 6. You can see we have a lot of ash buildup. So if we were doing a 10, 12 hour cook, I'd really have to get some of that ash moved around. I'd have to really get the embers going. So I'd have to add more wood here to start to try to replenish. So there's lots of steps to take when you're doing additional wood only cooks once you finish your briquette base or your lump charcoal base. It is a lot easier to just keep adding charcoal throughout your cook with your splits to maintain temperatures, have a more consistent temperature. But when you're doing wood only, these are the other aspects, the variables in the cook that you're going to have to think about. You can do it. We've been holding temperature between 250, 275. Like I said, it's swung a lot on me. Wind's been a major issue, but it can be done. And when we try these ribs in about 2 hours, I'm sure they're going to be delicious. So the ribs actually turned out really good. We devoured them. They tasted great. It was perfectly fine, but there were a lot of temperature swings throughout this entire cook that, quite frankly, I walked out the door. I was like, I got this. I've done this 100 times. And for some reason, and I think I illustrated what the biggest culprit was, some of my wood was wet. All right, from a rainstorm a little bit earlier, you know, just feeling the difference between these two logs. You can tell that this one is carrying a lot more weight. Yes, obviously it's bigger, but there's just a density you feel. And the light bulb just didn't go off that, hey, this could be a issue. This wood might not be ready to catch like it normally does. Some other things. Using this post oak I ordered from a supplier has been way easier than the hickory I got from my friend. All right. And I think it's just the right size. I don't think it has to do with where the wood actually came from. But for this type of offset smoker, this 6-inch cut here just works great. Where once we get to that 10-inch range, I've always tend to have more issues with the wood that's just a little bit bigger for this size offset smoker. When I use my buddy's big 125-gallon smoker, I throw pieces like this in there all the time, a little bit bigger, and it works perfectly. However, for these backyard, it really does make a lot of sense to continue to add charcoal throughout your cook. You can do it wood only. You can finish with great results. I know a lot of people out there that do it. However, I want more peace of mind when I'm out in the backyard using my smoker. I want consistency without a lot of stress. With using wood only, I could keep it right at 250, but literally every like 90 seconds, every 3 minutes, you might have to be adjusting the vent, especially if the wind was blowing as hard as it was today. It was really pushing through there, so you have to monitor very closely. Other things you want to be mindful of is the ash buildup. All right, as you saw, if that's going for a long cook, you're going to have a lot of ash buildup, even more so from some of the logs. Sometimes they'll really start creating a pile of ash that you need to clear out. As soon as I did that a couple times, my temps really spiked up, which then led me back to having to damper down the intake vent. So there's a lot of mechanics going behind it. However, it's still extremely rewarding. My final conclusions are, with these type of offset smokers, it does make a lot of sense to continue to nurse it along with charcoal. Let charcoal be your friend throughout your cook. If you want to use wood only, absolutely go for it, but make sure you check out your wood beforehand. Make sure you're using the right sizes. I thought, you know, every time I'm like, this is too big, but no, I'm going to give it a try. I want to do it. This is still just a little too big for what I'm trying to do with this offset versus this, even a little bit smaller in width would probably be even better, but this is what I have. But this 6-inch length size, it's not a chunk you would get in a bag from the store. This is a little bit bigger. They seem to be just the right fit for this type of offset smoker. So I hope you've learned some stuff from this video. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe, because we have an Oklahoma Joe right around the corner, reverse flow, and we're about to start doing a ton of experiments with Oklahoma Joe smokers to see how they run different than this type of smoker by a different brand, Kingsford. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and leave us a huge thumbs up. And let us know in the comments what you want to see us smoke first in the Oklahoma Joe. I hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I will see you very soon.